Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 50, halfway to 100 of the World of Sports podcast. I'm your host, Diego Sandoval. Joined with me, as always, is my co-host, Logan Ring. Logan, say what's up to the people.
What's up, everybody?
We've got a very NFL-heavy episode today, as it is. We're recording this on Friday, September 3rd. The first game of the season is next Thursday. It will be the Cowboys and the Buccaneers. That'll be a great game. And the NFL season will be off and running. I'm very, very excited. Even as a Raiders fan, nothing good is going to happen for our team this year, but I'm just excited to watch football again. Should be a great season. But before I will do my top 10 wide receiver rankings, and then we are going to get into some predictions that we have. We've said it before, but I will probably have the majority of the predictions, and Logan has some bold predictions in there as well. And then before we get into football, though, we're going to start off with some talk about the New York Mets, because they seem to be at the front of sports news this week, especially baseball news, and not in a good way. So we're going to talk as always, if we're talking about the Mets, it's usually not in a very positive way. But before we get into it, follow us on all of our social medias. If you're watching on YouTube, you can click the links down below. If you're listening, just look up the World of Sports podcast, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. That we could be found on all those places. And let's get right into it with the New York Mets situation. If you are not aware, the Mets have had they were good. They were up at the top of their division for a while this year, but it's a pretty bad division, if we're being honest. Mm-hmm. And, ever since the second half, the All-Star break, they've just kind of been hurting a lot. And they just have Mets fans at the beginning of the season had very lofty expectations with the Lindor trade, with their pitchers, quote unquote, getting healthy. And they just haven't performed to their standards. And if we're being honest, I thought the Mets were going to be better, but, injuries happen, players underperform, namely Francisco Lindor. He is getting paid a lot of money to be a good fielding shortstop right now. So that's not very good. But basically the story behind this is they've been underperforming. So Mets fans at Citi Field, as New York fans have always been very critical of their teams, they're booing them pretty heavily. And so the Mets, the players themselves, namely, Javi Baez has kind of spearheaded this whole thing. Anytime the team's actually doing well, they get a base hit, they get a RBI, they get a home run, they turn to the Citi Field home crowd and just do thumbs down at the fans. And basically what they came out and said is, if they're going to boo us when we're doing bad, we're going to boo them when we're doing well, which, I mean, I'm not mad at it. I think in some way the fans kind of deserve it. Like, yeah, they're maybe not performing to your expectations, but they're still your team. And if you can't boo them that heavy and then expect them to love you when you like them when they're good. It's pretty much the definition of a fair weather fan or bandwagon fan. But I honestly wasn't mad when the Mets started doing that celebration.
Yeah, it's a weird situation. It's kind of like the New York baseball fans are always ones who are going to get pissed at their own players if they're doing bad. It's kind of how Philly and basketball happens. I don't really know why.
It's New York sports fans in general. Giants fans hate their players sometimes. Jets fans hate it. It's just a New York thing.
Yeah, and they have to deal with the Knicks too. So I don't understand how they're not used to it. But also I understand the frustration too. I mean, you can look at it from both sides. If I was a player and my home team was booing me, I'm not gonna do better because of that. You're just making me do worse. It's more pressure on me. But also I understand the frustration. The fans are going to be pissed when Frankie is batting .220 and getting paid $20 million a year for the next 10 years. More than that, I think.
Oh, it's much more. It's 40.
Yeah, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money for the production he's getting. And Javi Baez has not been doing bad, but he strikes out a lot. His plate discipline is terrible. He swung at a ball 20 feet before it got to home plate. There was that crazy picture.
Yeah, he's always been like that though. And I think Mets
Yeah.
fans were expecting him to come in and be this almighty offensive player, but he's always come with that. And I don't know if Mets fans understood that.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit unrealistic expectations for him. I mean, Francisco Lindor, on the other hand, like he's been really good. He was my favorite player even last year, and he had a down year, and then he came in this year and is having another down year. He'll give you defense, but he's got to step it up with the offensive production. But man, I don't know. I would just never boo my own home team, no matter what happened. Like I've been an Indians fan, I've been a Cavs fan, and a Browns fan. I've been through like terrible seasons, and I have never been like, if I was at a home game, there is no way I would ever boo one of my own players. But that's New York culture. So I don't know, even the players coming out and saying stuff like stop booing us, that's also like a situation where I'm like, they're not gonna just like listen to you. So it's a weird look for everyone, kind of. It's a bad look for the fans, for the players. It's kind of like you can look at it and being like, oh, they're whining, like you're in New York, you're underperforming. They just play better. But yeah, it's weird because there's no like solution for it unless the players do well. And I guess that's kind of what the fans are saying. But it just sucks for the players too, honestly.
Yeah. And then after the players came out and said, we're going to do the thumbs down thing, the Mets president came out and said, we, don't condone any players disrespecting fans. So they took the fan side. And that just shows a complete disconnect in this franchise, that there's a three-way battle going on between the players, the fans, and the actual organization. And that's just not a good sign. I'm a Dodger fan, but I think it's safe to say that they're one of the best franchises in baseball right now. And you see with the Dodgers, they've got loyal fans, players who like their fans, and an organization that is aligned with those other two things. And, even look at the Giants. The Giants are in the same place right now where there's no disconnect. Everyone is kind of together in this. And you look at the Mets and it just never seems to be going right for them. And yeah, you can just say, oh, you can't do much about a team underperforming, but you can do stuff about disconnect within organizations. And if the fans aren't happy, there's stuff you can do for that. But it just seems like we keep revisiting the Mets as just this franchise that can't get it together.
Yeah, it's weird because it's got to be the front office or something about it, because it's just a culture around it. Like I don't know what the solution is, but they got a ton of talent on that team. It just never works out. I think we predicted that they would at least be a wild card team or like in the hunt for it, and they're 500 and they've had injuries. Yeah, but like most of their players are underperforming too. So it's not, you can't just blame it on that. Everybody's had injuries. And I also just want to point out, it's kind of funny just that like organizations and fans are so different from one another. Like Javi Baez came from the Cubs, who sucked for so long, and their fans are so loyal. Say what you want about Cleveland, but their sports fans are some of the most loyal ones in the world. I mean, we've sucked forever and we would not boo our own players. So Frankie and Javi Baez going to the Mets, Frankie signing like a 10-year deal. I mean, you signed up for it. So I don't know. I mean, it was your choice. You're getting a lot of money for it. So if you're going to get booed, I don't know, play better, I guess, but it just sucks. It was your choice though.
Yeah. I mean, looking back on it, we predicted the Braves to win that division, but we both had the Mets in the wild card spot. So, and I mean, they've won, I think, 4 straight. So they're not, they're on a little bit of a run here, and that division's definitely still attainable. The wild card spot definitely is, just because of the way the Padres are slipping. But the season's not over for the Mets, but there's an aura around them that makes you feel like the season is over. Like it just seems like nothing's going right for them when they're, what are they, 5 games out of both their division and the wild card. And I know a lot would have to happen in the final month, but it's definitely attainable for the Mets, especially if their talent plays to the way their talent should play. But as of right now, it's just a bad situation in New York, in whatever part of New York the Mets are, because the Yankees are doing good. But yeah, do you have anything else to say about the Mets?
Nah, it's just something I want to like keep an eye on. I think it's kind of funny, to be honest. I mean, New York fans are not the best fans in my opinion. I mean, I don't think it's ever really right to boo your own players if they're not given effort, sure, but like you're just gonna make them worse. I don't know.
I mean, they're the perfect example of, you know, you love me when I'm at my best, but you hate me when I'm at my worst. It's like you can't be considered a loyal fan if that's your stance on your team. And that's where the Mets are. Like, I'll give credit, Yankee fans are brutal, but they stick with their team. The Yankees, it's just different. I don't know what it is, but it's different in that way. So yeah, I don't know what they would do. I'm sure it'll be something that'll be handled in the off season, whether that mean rebuild, probably not, since they have so much money on the books, or go out and get more guys. So we'll see what the Mets choose to do. There's really not much in the NBA. It's the NBA dead period. The one thing is that Ben Simmons, reportedly a trade is going to happen, and he wants to go to a California team.
That's not happening.
Lakers won't work. Warriors said they're out. Kings said they're out.
Clippers have no money.
Clippers have nothing.
Yeah, and he said 3 of the California teams too. So I don't even know who he left off, but I think it'd be really funny if it was the Kings.
I'm sure he left off the Kings because he wants to, be in the playoffs. But then you look at the 3 other teams and there's no possible way.
Yeah, well, the Warriors could do it, but like they don't want to. That's the thing.
Exactly.
Like, he does not have the leverage to do this. I mean, he's a very young, like, stud player on, like, if you look at his career so far, but like we all know what happened in the playoffs. We all know what his, I guess, market is right now, and it's not what the asking price of the Sixers is. So something to keep an eye on. I mean, the story is just that he like told the front office that he's not even going to report to training camp. Players have done that before and they still have, but I mean, trade the man, I guess, but also don't just like get a bad trade. We'll see what happens. I mean, we knew this was going to happen anyway.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation because if we were talking about Ben Simmons being traded at this time last year, teams would have thrown so many assets at the Sixers. It just would have been insane.
They could have had James Harden on that team.
But since, what transpired in the playoffs this year, which was very bad, him scoring in the single digits in playoff games is not good. Teams just aren't willing to trade away their future for a guy who's going to be a solid defender.
He just hasn't improved, and he's not shown any signs of improving. So until he does that, his ceiling is a lot lower than people viewed even a year ago.
Yeah, and don't get us wrong, Ben Simmons is a great player in the NBA. Like, the best defensive guard in the NBA, one of the best defensive players that we've seen in a long time, being able to guard every single position. But he's not worth 4 first-round picks and 2 really good young players, which is like the original offer by the Sixers. I don't know if anybody in the NBA is worth that besides a guy like Luka, and Ben Simmons isn't him. So
yeah,
the Sixers aren't going to get what they want.
Yeah, just look at the James Harden trade and what they gave up, which was a bunch of picks and not a lot more. Ben Simmons is not going to get that much. So if they're asking for that much, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
We will see if Ben Simmons is in a Philadelphia uniform. Apparently, it may not happen. It's supposed to not happen, but I don't know if a non-contender is going to throw a bunch of stuff at the Sixers. We'll see. Apparently, Patrick Beverley wants Ben Simmons on the Timberwolves.
Yeah, they're saying like, oh, imagine a lineup of like D'Angelo Russell, Anthony Edwards, Cat, and then Ben Simmons. Like, no, you're gonna have to give up one of those guys. Yeah. I don't know who you think you're going to give up to get him, but I want to see him moved. I mean, we'll see how he does on a new team.
Yeah. That's all for NBA. Really, there won't be much NBA for a little bit. Just little things like this. Going forward until obviously the season starts back up. Now on to the NFL. It is a week away from NFL week 1. Next week we will be doing bold predictions for the week. We did it last year. We're gonna do it this year. I I think it was a fun segment where we just kind of throw some predictions out there for that week in the NFL and see if any of them hit. Maybe we'll keep track this time and see who knows. Because
see if I get any.
Hey, I mean, bold predictions, they're supposed to be bold, and therefore there shouldn't be that much of an advantage, you know?
Yeah.
But anyways, before we get into predictions for this season, I'm going to do my top 10 wide receivers pretty quick here. I already did quarterback and running back. I think I'm only going to do wide receivers. Maybe I'll do a team power rankings and post that before Thursday. But I'm definitely going to post our Super Bowl predictions before Thursday because it will be before the season starts. So, top 10 wide receivers in the NFL. Number 10 is a second-year wideout of the Minnesota Vikings, Justin Jefferson. Last year, he had arguably the best rookie wide receiver season we've ever seen. Definitely the best since Randy Moss. He had 88 receptions, 1,400 receiving yards, and 7 touchdowns. And he put up those stats without being used very much in the beginning of the year. The first 2 or 3 weeks, he was kind of an afterthought in that offense. And, you know, it came week 4 or 5, and whatever happened in Minnesota, they said, hey, this is a guy we spent a first round pick on. Let's use him. And it definitely paid off. Like I said, 1,400 yards. He's an elite talent. And I don't think there's a reason he won't take another step this year. Again, he's so young. It's his second year. I see him getting better in these next couple of years, which puts him at my number 10. Number 9 is arguably, and it may not even be arguable, he's one of the most physically gifted players in the league. Just his workout videos, his training, the numbers he put up in the combine. It's DK Metcalf of the Seattle Seahawks. He's just an absolute monster of a human being. In the top 10 wide receivers post, I have the picture of him flexing where he is just so huge. Third-year wide receiver. In his first 2 seasons, he had 900 yards and 1,300 yards with 7 and 10 touchdowns, respectively, in those seasons. He's got a very good quarterback in Russell Wilson throwing to him. I don't see why Russell Wilson would take a step back. He's going to keep doing what Russell Wilson does. And DK Metcalf is his number 1 option. He can really do it all. He's got to shore up his hands a little bit. He struggled with drops in his first 2 seasons, but he can run the short route. He can burn guys over top. He can do everything. DK Metcalf at number 9. Now at number 8, it was tough for me to put this guy over DK Metcalf. I definitely could see them flip-flopping, but I have another third-year wide receiver in AJ Brown of the Tennessee Titans. He posted over 1,000 yards in his first 2 years with 8 and 11 touchdowns. So his numbers are better than DK Metcalf. I like DK's quarterback a little bit more. Tannehill is very solid, very underappreciated, but I just think Russell Wilson is a little bit better. AJ Brown with the Titans is in an interesting situation. He's been the wide receiver 1 the last 2 years. They went out and signed Julio Jones this offseason. And don't get me wrong, I think AJ Brown is still the wide receiver 1, but I think getting Julio onto that offense will absolutely help AJ Brown because, yeah, it might take away some targets, but AJ Brown's targets are going to be so much more valuable because teams are going to have to spread out their corners. They're not going to be able to double team AJ Brown like they have the last 2 seasons. They're going to have to focus on Julio, which leaves better options, better routes for AJ Brown to run in the offense. So I think because of that, I put AJ Brown above DK Metcalf. I honestly think that addition of Julio helps him. And I think AJ Brown is in for a career year in his 3rd season. At number 7, I have a guy who has been very consistent throughout his entire career. It's Keenan Allen of the Los Angeles Chargers. He just is a workhorse wide receiver, and you don't really hear that phrase a lot. It's usually workhorse running back, but he just catches so many passes. Last year, he caught 100 balls for 992 yards and 8 touchdowns. The 3 years before, he was at 1,200 yards or more every single season, up around 1,200 yards or more every single season for the 3 years before. And last year he put up those numbers without having much experience with Justin Herbert at quarterback. Again, Herbert was kind of thrust into that position after the whole Tyrod Taylor punctured lung scenario in the pregame warmups. So I think a whole year to kind of work with Justin Herbert is going to do Keenan Allen a lot of good and kind of keep him in that upper tier of wide receivers. So Keenan Allen at 7. At number 6, I have a guy who has really just done the most with the absolute worst in his career, and that's Allen Robinson. He's played with the worst quarterbacks in the league for like 3 out of the 5 seasons of his career. His catchable target rate is the lowest by so much. That means when quarterbacks target him, the balls just aren't catchable. Like they're not, he can't physically catch the balls. Like it's just, they've been that bad. And this year, I think he's going to have his best quarterbacks. It's going to be Andy Dalton to start the year, which I think Andy Dalton is already the best quarterback he's ever going to have. And then towards the end, Justin Fields is going to take over. And Justin Fields, obviously they picked him with a high pick. They believe in him. He's going to take over. He's very talented. I remember saying on the draft show, he honestly could be the best quarterback in this draft. And I think that sets up Allen Robinson for another great year. Last year, with bad quarterback play, Allen Robinson finished with 102 receptions, over 1,200 yards and 6 touchdowns. I think the touchdown numbers go up. I think the amount of receptions goes up because balls are actually going to be able to be caught by him. And so I have Allen Robinson at my number 6 spot. Now into the number 5 is a guy who really became a wide receiver 1 last year, and that's Calvin Ridley of the Atlanta Falcons. Last year he had 90 receptions, 1,374 receiving yards, and 9 touchdowns. And that was all with Julio Jones there taking targets away from him. Yeah, Julio was hurt for a good amount last year, but having Julio out of that offense, I think Calvin Ridley will absolutely explode. It's only his 4th year in the league. He's got elite speed over the top, and Matt Ryan loves to throw the ball. He's been top in pass attempts for however many years in his career. And I think Calvin Ridley is primed for, honestly, a career year, I think, in Atlanta. On to number 4, and that's a guy who really broke out this year, and that's Stefon Diggs of the Buffalo Bills. Last year, 127 receptions, 1,500 yards, and 8 touchdowns. He's had over 1,000 receiving yards in the last 3 seasons. And obviously he has MVP candidate Josh Allen as his quarterback. That duo is just ridiculous. Josh Allen, Stefon Diggs. I think they're going to throw the ball a lot this year. They don't have a very good rushing attack. Their defense is solid, but they're going to have to throw the ball. And Stefon Diggs has entered that elite category. If you asked me at the beginning of last year, he would have been around 10 for me, but just he showed out and showed what he can do with a true MVP level quarterback in Josh Allen. So Stefon Diggs at number 4. Now at number 3 is the definition of consistent in the NFL. And that is Deandre Hopkins. Last year, he had 115 receptions for 1,400 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns. He's had over 800 receiving yards in all 8 of his NFL seasons. He's had 1,000 or more in 6 of those seasons, and he's had 1,500 receiving yards twice in his career. That's just ridiculous numbers. There's no reason for me to think that that's going to go away. Kyler Murray is a great quarterback. Do I think he's as good a passer as Deshaun Watson was in Houston? No, but he's still going to get it done. We saw he got it done last year, 1,400 yards. The only knock against Hopkins is that his touchdown numbers are low, and I don't know if that's necessarily going to change. He's always been kind of a guy that just gets you chunk yardage plays, 20, 30 yards, which is super valuable. But like I said, he's the definition of consistent. He's going to go out. I can almost guarantee he'll get over 1,000 receiving yards this year. He's that offense's number 1. And he's got all the physical talent in the world. He's the best Hail Mary wide receiver in the league. He'll catch 1 or 2 of those a season. He's got all the tools to be one of the best, if not the best receivers in the league this year. Now at number 2, I have Tyreek Hill of the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, he puts up video game numbers, and having Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback obviously helps. But I mean, last year he had 87 receptions for 15 touchdowns. Those reception stats are low for a number 1 wide receiver. That's because Travis Kelce's on the team. But to do that and still put up 15 touchdowns and almost 1,300 receiving yards just shows his big play ability. He's going to get you 50+ yard touchdowns multiple times in a season. In 3 of his 5 NFL seasons, he's had over 1,100 receiving yards. And in one of those seasons, he was injured for 4 weeks and he still had like 800 yards. I mean, he's the fastest guy in the NFL, and there's really no argument. Nobody can guard him on a streak. He's just so valuable. And like I said, him and Mahomes, there's absolutely no way, barring injury, that Tyreek Hill doesn't have a great year this year. He's still young. Like I said, it's going to be a 6th season. The speed's not going away. He's going to have that in his back pocket always. And then he's a good physical catcher that I don't think he gets enough credit for. He can go up and get contested jump balls. So Tyreek Hill isn't this one-dimensional blow right by you wide receiver. He's going to go up and catch some contested balls here or there. And that's really going to help the Chiefs this year, who, spoiler alert, are going to do very well this year. And that moves on to my number 1, and I think anybody could have guessed it if you are somewhat interested in football, and that's Devante Adams of the Green Bay Packers. I mean, in only 14 games last year, he had 115 receptions, 1,300 yards, 1,374 yards, and 18 receiving touchdowns. Granted, yes, Aaron Rodgers had an absolute career year, but he's just so good at everything as a wide receiver. He can beat a cornerback with his speed. He's an amazing route runner. He can go up and get contested balls. He's good in the red zone. He's good in the open field. He's Aaron Rodgers' safety blanket, and I don't know if there's a term that could be more safe for a player in terms of them getting, yards and touchdowns and points than Aaron Rodgers' safety blanket. Aaron Rodgers is going to throw him the ball over 100 to 120 times this year. In the last 5 seasons with the Packers, he's had over 115 targets in each of the last 5 seasons. He just gets peppered the ball. Like, it doesn't matter where they are on the field, what down it is. There's a very good chance Devante Adams gets the ball for the Packers. And there's no other wide receiver on this list that's the case for, I don't think. And I think he is just in this upper tier all by himself. Again, he's with an MVP caliber quarterback that just gives him the ball as much as possible. And he's obviously the main guy in that offense. And there's no reason, if you have him below 1, you're wrong, pretty much. But yeah, that's all I got for my top 10 wide receivers. Devante Adams at 1. Number 2, Tyreek Hill, DeAndre Hopkins, Stephon Diggs, Calvin Ridley, Allen Robinson II, Keenan Allen, AJ Brown, DK Metcalf, and Justin Jefferson. Whew. How'd that sound?
Sounded great.
Thank you.
Exactly how I would have done it.
Perfect. All right, perfect. So we don't have any changes to make. Now let's get into the juicy stuff. We do it for every new upcoming season. We usually have a whole episode dedicated. We wanted to talk about the Mets today and a little bit about Ben Simmons. So it's not fully dedicated, but it's basically fully dedicated to NFL. Season's right around the corner, and with that come predictions. We've got our award predictions. I have predictions for every award. Logan has a few that he thinks he has a shot on. Should be interesting to see. I'll let you start off. You said you had an MVP prediction for us.
I do. So
let's hear it.
So casual side of football, someone who does not know a lot, but knows the top names and stuff. With my bold predictions, I kind of just wanted to, these aren't like the ones who I think are necessarily going to win. I just kind of wanted to have some fun and just pick some guys who, if they hit, then sure. I mean, I'll look like a genius. If they don't, then I could just claim I'm not a real fan. So for MVP, not like a long shot, but I got Josh Allen winning MVP for this year.
So do I, brother. I want to hear your reasoning.
So he's improved just a ton every single year. I mean, he's still young and he's just been doing so well recently too. 13-3 last year. Just like you were talking about Stephon Diggs. I mean, he's got a weapon to throw to all the time. The Bills have been very good. I think in the playoffs, they could have done better, but I mean, the regular season, they showed that they were consistently really good. And I really like Josh Allen. I think he's going to be really good this year. And he's not really he's not really talked about in like the Patrick Mahomes tier or Tom Brady tier or whatever, but I think he's close to that at least. And he just needs to put up some good numbers. The Bills have a really good record. I don't see why he can't win it.
Yeah. I also have Josh Allen as my MVP. I'm really not sure when we're going to get to the point in Patrick Mahomes' career where he's not the favorite for MVP, because I'm pretty sure he has been the last like 3 seasons. So, but I think Josh Allen is second right now. And I have Josh Allen winning it. I mean, for all the reasons you just said, that offense is going to throw the ball a lot. He's got weapons to throw to. Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley, Gabriel Davis has been solid in training camp and preseason. And that defense is solid, but I still think that this team is going to have to throw the ball a lot to win this year. And I project them to win a lot of games this year. I'd say 12 plus is a safe bet for the Bills, especially with the new 17-game season. But really nothing else to say. I think Josh Allen takes another step, which is crazy. He took a massive step last year in terms of his interception numbers. It was a crazy leap. No one really saw coming. And I think he stays on that track and does even better this year. Josh Allen for MVP. Let's go on to the rookie of the years. Offensive rookie of the year. I have a pick. Do you have a pick for this?
I do.
Okay, I'll let you go first.
Okay, so I'm gonna start off. I think it's gonna be a QB, and this is kind of just a fun pick. I think it's gonna be Justin Fields. Okay. I think the Bears need a quarterback, obviously, and I think that they've been like needing one for a long time. I think he's exciting. Young guy, young quarterback coming in is always fun for the team, no matter who it is, but at least he'll bring some excitement. And I think the team can be good. I mean, they're not bad. It's just they need a quarterback to actually like be consistent for them. And he's been good in college. At Ohio State, he did pretty well. Didn't play a ton of games last season, but I think that he showed that he can be a quarterback in the NFL. And basically, I just picked him because I want the Bears to have a quarterback. I think it'd be fun. But yeah, not the favorite. So I like this pick.
Yeah, I think Justin Fields is gonna. I mean, we don't know when he's going to take over, but he absolutely will. Andy Dalton's not going to last very long in that offense. And I talked about him earlier. I think Justin Fields is a great prospect, and he's going to do good things for the Bears. But I have this quarterback just a little bit ahead of him, and that is Trey Lance of the San Francisco 49ers. I like Lance's situation a little bit more. I think Shanahan as a head coach is a lot better of a quarterback minded coach. And I like the Niners weapons a lot more than the Bears. Don't get me wrong. I love Allen Robinson, but the Niners, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, Raheem Mostert, Trey Sermon, to go along with Trey Lance. And I think Trey Lance is going to start week 2 or 3. I don't know if Jimmy G is going to last very long. And just the ability that Trey Lance has, both with his feet and with his arm, just show that he's an all-around talent that's going to be really good in this league for a very long time. So Trey Lance as my offensive rookie of the year. Now, defensive rookie of the year, do you have a pick for this?
I don't.
Okay.
There are only 2 award picks.
Okay, so defensive rookie of the year. I'm just going to run through the rest of my awards. Defensive rookie of the year. I have Micah Parsons of the Dallas Cowboys. He's just He's going to be super talented. He's a linebacker for the Cowboys. They really need a key leader on defense, or just a key player on defense. Their defense has been really bad recently. And I think Micah Parsons is the guy that comes in and does that. They spent a first round pick on him. He's going to be on the field a lot. He honestly can play wherever, on the line, in coverage. You can move him out to the secondary at some point. He's fast enough to do that. So I have Micah Parsons in my defensive rookie of the year. My offensive player of the year could be named the comeback player of the year, but I have him as my offensive player of the year. Just because I think he's going to have a ridiculous season that they can't not put him here. And also quarterback, MVP is a quarterback award, which is lame, but it is. My offensive player of the year is Christian McCaffrey of the Carolina Panthers, coming off of injury. I think he's going to have 1,000 receiving and 1,000 rushing season. And if a guy has that and puts up double-digit touchdown numbers, which again, I think he'll do, I don't see a reason why he shouldn't be the offensive player of the year. The only reason he wouldn't be would be if they gave him comeback player of the year, because he was kind of hurt for, I think he played in 4 games last season. That's the only reason why he wouldn't be offensive player of the year. They could put him in the comeback player of the year category, but Christian McCaffrey is my offensive player of the year. Now, defensive player of the year is a guy that a lot of people thought got snubbed last year. Aaron Donald won it last year. I'm going to go with TJ Watt of the Pittsburgh Steelers. We see defensive player of the year go to defensive linemen a lot, just because they are viewed as the most impactful on the defensive end. Stephon Gilmore won it a couple years ago, but other than that, it has been a long time. And TJ Watt is going to be up there in sacks. That Steelers defense is going to be elite. And I don't see a reason why he's not going to have another amazing year. That's defensive player of the year worthy. And I think if it's up between him and Aaron Donald, it's going to be him this year, because voter fatigue is real. As much as they've given Aaron Donald defensive player of the year, I think already 3 or 4 times in his career. Which, don't get me wrong, Aaron Donald is definitely the best defensive player in the NFL, but we all know that that's not how awards work. I think TJ Watt gets it. Myles Garrett is close behind Logan, so don't worry. Comeback player of the year. Again, this is almost always a guy that is injured and then has a really good season the year after. And I'm going to go with Dak Prescott of the Dallas Cowboys. I'm pretty sure he's the favorite. When a quarterback like of his caliber gets injured and is out for the rest of the season, they usually come back and win comeback player of the year, just because he's going to put up great numbers because he is a elite quarterback. And I think he gets it. Coach of the year, I got Sean McVay of the Los Angeles Rams. I have the Rams doing very well this year. I'm not going to spoil anything about the Rams this year because our predictions come up next. But Sean McVay, he's a boy genius. He's still in his 30s. He's got players on his team that are older than him. But he is just ridiculous on the offensive side. And I think him having Matthew Stafford on his team is going to expand his playbook so much, and they're going to be so good. Sean McVay, coach of the year. Whew. Okay. So what are your bold predictions? Are they in terms of like team records? Or are they just players?
So these two are very bold predictions. One of them is
all right, let's go.
I don't know how it's going to happen.
Let's go with Logan's bold prediction segment before my division prediction segment. Don't do the Super Bowl yet. Super Bowl will come at the end.
Okay. Well, then I just got one, but
okay.
This is a weird one. You can laugh at me. I don't care. I'm just doing this one because if it becomes true, then it'll just be crazy. And it was kind of just like reported earlier, but now it's just completely died because it's probably not going to happen. But I got Russell Wilson requesting a trade. I don't honestly have a lot of reasons for this other than the fact that, I mean, the reports came out earlier about him wanting to leave and then they were totally fake. But I could see if the Seahawks just suck somehow and his offensive line is terrible still or something, maybe he gets super pissed. And maybe there's the slightest chance that he requests a trade. He has said that he wants to stay his entire career. I don't know if that's true, but he has not made like any indication he wants to leave. But I don't know. I just thought it would be fun because if it happens, then it'll be crazy.
If it happens, I'm not going to make another jersey bet, but if it happens, all hail you, because you just said the reason behind you making this bold prediction is because there were rumors that ended up being completely not true.
Fake rumors. Hey, but you never know. Maybe there was something true about it.
You really never do know, but I don't know if I've ever heard somebody make a prediction based off of rumors that they know are not real.
See, if I was a real NFL fan, I could not make a prediction like this, but you know what? I'm gonna do it. I don't care.
All right. You heard it here first. Write it down somewhere. In quotes by Logan Ring, Russell Wilson will request a trade from the Seattle Seahawks.
It's happening.
All right. Sure. I don't see it. I don't see it happening. That's just my 2 cents, and I'm sure the general population's 2 cents, but respectable. All right.
I'll take it.
Now let's get into my division, which really are our division winner predictions. Unless you get super mad at one of them, then we'll figure it out. But
I might.
In the AFC West, as much as I'd love to put my Las Vegas Raiders in first place,
it ain't gonna happen.
It ain't gonna happen. This Kansas City Chiefs are going to win this division. In a 17-game season, they're gonna win 14 of them. That offense is just way too good, and the offensive line got better. So that's scary. And that was really what cost them from winning the Super Bowl last year, was their offensive line was bad. And guess what? They went out and got 2 guys who have been all pros in their career. Thanks, Kansas City. Anyways, Kansas City Chiefs are taking that division, in my opinion. I don't think any other team in that division makes the playoffs. I have the Chargers in second. I really like what they did with the offense, bringing in a new offensive coordinator. And then I have my Raiders in third, and then the Denver Broncos in fourth. And the Raiders honestly could end up in fourth. They haven't done. They made a couple moves in the offseason, but nothing that makes me hopeful. As a Raider fan, I've learned not to get hopeful. But the Broncos do have some pieces here and there. They have a really good defense, but there's just question marks on that quarterback position. I'm not a very firm believer in Teddy Bridgewater. So I have them finishing in last in their division. Also partly because I didn't want to put the Raiders in last, but that's okay. So the Chiefs are winning that division and are the only team from that division to make the playoffs. Now, the AFC North is going to be it's going to be either the first or second best division in football. The other one will be the NFC West, which I'll talk about in a little bit. This is the one where I think you're going to get mad at me.
Uh-oh.
I have the Ravens winning the division. I think Lamar Jackson is going to he had a very down year last year, but let's not forget the man won MVP, and hey, he's the best rushing quarterback since Michael Vick. And I think people are overlooking him because of the season he had last year. And let's be honest, the season last year was just weird. They had guys missing from that offense every week because of COVID. They were this weird COVID team, but I think the Ravens come back. Their defense is very good. Their defense has been very good. That's just a staple with Harbaugh and the Ravens, that their defense is going to be good. Lamar Jackson has an elite tight end in Mark Andrews. He's got weapons on the outside. Again, he probably won't use them very much because he's rush first. But I think that works. And we saw towards the end of the season last year, just he's able to take over a game. I know it sucks to bring up, but that Ravens-Browns game was it was a phenomenal game. But we saw on the last play where the Ravens scored the touchdown, they came all out on a Lamar Jackson run, and he had an open guy. Stuff like that just happens in this offense, and I don't see it not stopping. I don't see that not happening this year for the Ravens. But don't get me wrong, the Browns are a wild card team. They've got the talent. You've got his jersey on, but I do think people are kind of overhyping Odell Beckham Jr. a little bit. Coming off an ACL tear isn't easy, especially as a wide receiver. You're doing a lot of cutting. And if we're being honest, he hasn't been good with the Browns. He is the wide receiver 40 in terms of overall production since joining the Browns. He's had only 2 games with over 100 receiving yards, and I know you don't like to hear that, but that's just how it is. All that being said, there's so many weapons for Baker Mayfield to use in this offense that I don't see a reason why they're not going to be successful. And that defense is scary. I mean, they're going to be good. The Ravens Browns, they could flip. And honestly, I made this prediction thinking it's going to be a 1-game difference between them. So it's going to be a very good race. And that race is also going to be very good by another wild card team in this division. That's Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh Steelers are in a very similar position to the Ravens, in my opinion. One of the best defenses in the league. The Steelers, I think, were the number 1 defense last year. Just so good. And they've got the Ravens defense and the weapons of the Browns offense, which by saying that probably makes you think I should have the Steelers higher. But I just don't believe in Ben Roethlisberger, and I don't think many people do, and nobody really should. But the Steelers, they have 3 really good receivers in Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, and Juju. And they just went out and drafted a guy who I think is going to be very good this year, Najee Harris out of Alabama. I think he's going to tear defenses apart. He is going to be a workhorse running back for them. And so I'm not going to be surprised when 3 teams in this division have double-digit wins. And that's obviously what I'm predicting happening with 2 wildcard teams and a division winner. And then there's the Bengals. I mean, I think
it could be fun.
They could. I think they made a huge mistake not drafting offensive line because, hey, that's the reason why your franchise quarterback tore every ligament in his knee last year. So they went out and got his buddy from college, which I'm sure will be exciting if he's able to get rid of the ball. I don't know if that's going to happen. The defense is not very good. It's Joe Burrow's a question mark. I don't even know if he's going to be fully ready to start the season. So we'll see. But like I said, it's going to be a 3-team race. I have the Steelers slightly behind the top 2 teams, but the Browns and Ravens, I wouldn't be surprised if they were flip-flop at the top. Do you have anything to say as a Cleveland fan?
I mean, I'm really excited for this season. I think the Browns are making the playoffs either way. But yeah, I'd put them number 1. Maybe that's just me talking because I'm a fan of them, but I just really like this team. I like how deep we are. And I mean, I think there's no really big holes in our entire team. So I really like how we're built. I think we can be consistent too. I mean, the Ravens are kind of like a team who could be really good or not as good as people think. And I think the Browns are kind of just going to be good. Maybe not the ceiling that the Ravens have, but
I think that's what I'm really excited at.
Yeah.
The Browns have the better floor, but the Ravens have the better ceiling. So
I can see that.
We'll see. And like I said, I'm not going to be surprised if they flip-flop. And that brings me to the AFC South. Again, 2 wild cards in the AFC North. There are going to be 3 wild card teams from each conference this year. In the AFC South, I have the Titans winning this division pretty handedly. No other team really scares me. I think the Colts are going to be solid. Not a playoff team, just because they've had a weird training camp. Carson Wentz and Quentin Nelson. Quentin Nelson, by the way, is the best offensive lineman in NFL football. I don't know, and in the NFL. But they both went down on the exact same day with the exact same injury, and they were both told they're going to be back in 5 to 12 weeks. And this was like 3 weeks ago. And all of a sudden, they're both ready to go week 1. So I don't know what kind of voodoo magic they're doing in Indianapolis, but apparently they're quote unquote ready. I don't see them as a playoff team. Don't think there's enough weapons on offense there. But going back to the Titans, Ryan Tannehill, I said it in the quarterback episode, one of the most underappreciated quarterbacks in the NFL. He knows how to do his job, and his job is hand the ball to Derrick Henry and then do a play action a couple of times. And he's got 2 wide receiver 1 caliber guys in AJ Brown and Julio Jones, who I talked about earlier, so I'm not going to go into them. Derrick Henry's a 2,000-yard rusher. That defense is solid enough to keep that offense ahead, and that offense is just ridiculous. No team can stop Derrick Henry. I don't care how good your rush defense is. And then at the bottom of that division, the Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence is going to be fun to watch this year, but I really don't see him doing much in terms of making that team actually good because he has nobody around him. And then the Texans are the worst team in the league. And I really don't have much to say about the Texans besides Deshaun Watson still has 22 allegations against him. So yeah. And then that moves me to the AFC East. We talked about it earlier. I got the Buffalo Bills winning this division. They have both of our MVP on the team. They've got a stud receiver, really good defense, and just an all-around great team. The Dolphins, I have finishing in second, and I have them as a wild card team this year. I think Tua is going to be good this year. I said it. I think he's going to be solid. A lot of people don't like Tua. Maybe it's because he's a lefty. I don't know. I think he's going to be good. I think they made that team better. They brought in Will Fuller. Myles Gaskin is going to be good. They have a really good defense, and I think that's what's going to help them into a wild card spot this year. So I have the Dolphins at the wild card spot. However, I wouldn't be surprised if Bill Belichick worked his weird little wizard magic and made the playoffs with Mac Jones. But Mac Jones is part of it. I think a rookie quarterback going through the motions with the Patriots is going to be tough. They've got a great defense, but I don't know if that offense is good enough to be a playoff team. And then there's the Jets. Pretty much the same situation as the Jaguars. Zach Wilson is going to be fun to watch, but really not much else is going to be fun to watch. And that moves me to the NFC West. Very similar to the AFC North. Four teams that could make the playoffs. I have the Rams winning this division. I talked about it a little bit before. Matthew Stafford is the perfect fit for this offense, for Sean McVay's offense. Jared Goff was, if we're being honest, the game manager for them. And Matthew Stafford is going to come in and throw the ball a lot. Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, Tyler Higbee. There's a bunch of weapons on that offense. Their defense is the best in the league. I mean, defense can be debated, Steelers or Rams. Those are the top two defenses in the league, in my opinion. Whoa.
Yeah, you see that?
NBA news. What the hell? Okay. You can break it.
All right. Report from Woj.
And Nets Woj is right.
DeAndre Jordan. Brooklyn is sending Jordan and 4 future second-round picks in cash to Detroit for Jahlil Okafor and Sekou Doumbouya.
Sure, honestly.
Okay, second-round picks don't really do anything, but 4 of them, maybe you'll hit on one. Sekou Doumbouya, I guess, has potential, but I think they're just trying to get DeAndre Jordan out of there, to be honest.
Yeah, and I'm not sure he'll stay from the Pistons for very long.
Yeah.
But really okay. Cool. But anyways, Rams, I think they're winning this division, and I think they're going to be one of the best teams in football this year. I have the Seahawks and the Cardinals in second and third, and they're both going to be wild card teams. I don't think Russell Wilson requests a trade. I think he stays on the Seahawks this year. And
we'll see.
I think he has the weapons on offense to do well. It's just going to come down to whether or not they #let Russ cook. I think they need to let him do his thing, which we saw last year at the beginning of the year. He was an MVP, and then they kind of slowed him down for some reason, started running the ball a lot. But I think they stick with him this whole year. I think they're a wild card team. Then with the Cardinals, Kyler Murray is going to keep progressing. DeAndre Hopkins, like I said, is a top-tier talent. AJ Green has been not very talked about as their wide receiver too, but he seems fully healthy and ready to go. And a healthy AJ Green is a great player. Chase Edmonds is going to be solid, and they've got an okay defense, a defense that can get them by. So I got the Cardinals taking a wild card spot. The 49ers, I had a tough time figuring out if they're going to be a wild card team. I have Trey Lance taking over at some point, and as good as I think he's going to be stats-wise, I don't know if he's going to be able to lead the team to wins just because we haven't seen rookie quarterbacks do that in the NFL. It's kind of different than other sports. where it takes a while for a rookie quarterback to get adjusted. And I think this is one of those cases. The Niners, don't get me wrong, absolutely could be a wild card team. They've got weapons. They've got a good defense, but I just don't have it happening with Trey Lance under center. Moving on to the NFC North, one team makes the playoffs from this division, and that's the Green Bay Packers. I've said enough about them. They're very good. They're one of the best, if not the best, offensive teams in football. And that's really in part to three guys, Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Jones, and Devante Adams. A top 5 quarterback, a top 1 wide receiver, and a top 10 running back. If your team has those 3 things, you're going to be very good at football. And I think they win the division. The Vikings could be good. They've got potential here or there. I just don't think Kirk Cousins is a playoff caliber quarterback. Then I have the Bears. You mentioned Justin Fields earlier. I think he takes over at some point. However, I don't think that team around him is good enough to make the playoffs. And like I said, rookie quarterbacks generally don't have the best track record in the NFL. And then I have the Lions in last. They're not good. Really nothing about them is good. DeAndre Swift and TJ Hawkinson are solid. Jared Goff is their quarterback now, and they're not going to be good. Spoiler alert. Now to the NFC South. We're almost there. I've got the reigning Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning this division. They brought back everybody from their Super Bowl team, which is insane. Shout out to Tom Brady because he takes pay cuts to let their team have good players. And it's working out, obviously. He's having an all right career. But Brady is going to be very good this year. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Rob Gronkowski, Antonio Brown, Ronald Jones, and Leonard Fournette is the offense. And they have a top 5 defense. When you return an entire team that just won a Super Bowl, you're going to be very good. And that's going to be the Buccaneers this year. Now, the Saints are an interesting team because I have them as a wild card team, but they could also be very bad. Like, they're one of those teams that I'm predicting to hit, but I wouldn't be surprised if they absolutely fell off the face of the earth. They were a very good team last year, but that was with Drew Brees. Drew Brees is now on his couch hanging out with his kids. Great for him. Happy retirement. Jameis Winston is a starting quarterback, which he definitely has question marks, but also he's shown that he can put up numbers in the NFL. They've got a top 3, top 5 running back, however you want to view it, in Alvin Kamara. A very solid defense, a defense that can keep you in games. So it's going to come down to how Jameis Winston plays, but I have them as a wild card spot. I think Jameis Winston does all right for them. And then the rest of that division, the Panthers are interesting. They have a lot of weapons. McCaffrey, DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson. Sam Darnold is going to get a chance to prove himself, but zero defense, really. They haven't done much, in my opinion. So I don't think the Panthers make the playoffs. And then the Falcons, zero defense. They're going to put up a lot of points, I think, just because they're going to have to try to keep on track with teams, but they're not going to win many games. Now to the final NFC East. It's kind of a testament to this division that my division winner doesn't even have a team name, and that is the Washington Football Team. The NFC East has been the worst division in football the last couple of years, and I don't see that coming to a halt. But that being said, I do like the Washington Football Team this year. Antonio Gibson is going to be good, very good. Ryan Fitzpatrick is a good NFL quarterback. He gets memed on, and he totally deserves it, but he is a good NFL quarterback. They have Terry McLaurin, a true wide receiver 1. Logan Thomas, a true tight end 1. They have a phenomenal defense. Great defense. Top 5. I think I might have said top 5 defense for 6 defenses today. It's okay. But the Washington Football Team is going to be very good this year. The rest of that division, not really. The Dallas Cowboys could be good. They're going to put up a lot of points, I think. They've got too much talent offensively to not put up points. Dak Prescott, Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, and Ezekiel Elliott. But hey, their defense, nothing. Good luck doing anything with that defense. So I have them finishing second in this division. Then I got the Giants. They have potential. Daniel Jones, I don't know if he's the answer. That's kind of been the question behind the Giants for the last couple seasons. Is Daniel Jones the answer? Probably not. Saquon Barkley coming back. There are concerns around him if he's fully ready off of his ACL tear. They've got a solid defense, but besides Saquon Barkley on offense, there's nothing there. They've got one of the worst, if not the worst, offensive lines in football. One of the worst wide receiver cores, especially with Kenny Golladay not even being ready for the beginning of the season. So I don't have much faith in the Giants this year. Less faith in the Philadelphia Eagles, who are last. Jalen Hurts could be solid, but they're a weird team where their offense is full of guys that aren't bad but aren't good either. They're a very mediocre team, and I think that'll land them last in this division. So yeah, those are my playoff predictions. I'm not going to guarantee any. The one I will absolutely guarantee is the Kansas City Chiefs will win the AFC West. I honestly think that's the only one, and maybe the Packers, but you could put so much money on the Chiefs winning the AFC West this year. And that brings us to our Super Bowl predictions. Logan, you go right ahead. I've been talking for too long.
All right. Not going to pretend this isn't slightly a homer pick here, but I'm going for it. I got the Browns beating the Packers in the Super Bowl. That's not a pick that many people are going to make, but I think it'll be fun. I have a lot of faith in the Browns. It's not a good idea to ever do that for any Cleveland team. If they make it if they win one playoff game, I will be happy again. But man, I'm excited for this year. I really like this Browns team. They got so many weapons, and then the Packers, I really like that team too. It could be, I don't know. It could be the Bucs again. Who knows? But I think that the Packers, maybe Aaron Rodgers has a Tom Brady-esque year that he had last year. I mean, he just won MVP. Who knows? But yeah, that's my pick. I think it'd be fun. I think it'd be something that people are not expecting. Definitely not the safe pick at all, but a fun one. Yeah.
There's definitely a path to that happening. I have both those teams making the playoffs, obviously, but I don't think either of them make it to the promised land. I have for the second time in back-to-back years, and it will be the second time ever, the home team, the team that is playing in their home stadium, will win the Super Bowl. I have the Los Angeles Rams defeating the Kansas City Chiefs in Super Bowl 56 in Los Angeles.
Wow.
I think the Rams have a top-tier defense, a veteran quarterback that can sling the ball, and so many weapons on offense. Stop me if I'm wrong, but this team reminds me eerily of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers of last year. And the Kansas City Chiefs, I mean, we've said enough about them. They're a boring pick, but there's a good shot at happening.
Hey, the Rams are a boring pick. I like it.
Yeah, I really do believe in the Rams this year. Again, I'm a Las Vegas Raiders fan, so I have not much to root for. I think it would be cool if an LA team won after the Lakers and the Dodgers just won. I think that would be fitting. They screwed the pooch last year. But I think the Los Angeles Rams are geared for a big season. I talked about McVay earlier, and I talked about the Rams earlier. But that's my prediction. Rams beat the Chiefs.
I like it.
All right. That was a great episode. I think it was a long one. I don't really time happened. But
it did.
It was a good episode. Excited for the NFL season. Logan's going to be such a good NFL expert by the end of the year. It's going to be crazy.
I'll try. I'm watching First Take all the time. I'm going to turn into the most casual fan there is.
We love to see it. It was a great episode. Thank you so much for listening / watching. If you made it this far, we love you. Go ahead and comment your Super Bowl prediction under our next post.
Yep.
And yeah, it's been fun. And for my co-host Logan Ring, my name is Diego Sandoval, signing off.